Good morning. My name is Donna McClurkin, and I'm here as a member of the Sunday Services Committee. Welcome to People's Church. Summer services are among my favorites because we get to learn new things from and about people's people. Our broad theme for this summer, as we emerge from 2 years of pandemic, is reclaiming, reweaving, redefining, recovering, and rebuilding. A special welcome is extended to the folks joining us by Zoom from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Grand Traverse, and to visitors and newcomers here in the Commons and those joining us virtually. We are so glad you're here.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit for the singing of our first song.
We light this chalice here, in this place. In this place, we can be together. We can gather in all the conflicting emotions tumbling around in our heads and our hearts. We bring them together here and lay them at the altar of community. For community means that fragile, non-perfect human beings can come together in the name of peace and find peace. So I have a couple of announcements this morning. There's a lot going on at church. We have our second congregational conversation this morning, or actually this afternoon. We are exploring the generations within our church. The format will be similar to what we did, or exactly the same actually as what we did the first time around, which is to say fishbowl style. So there's a circle, and then there's an outside circle, and the people in the circle take turns listening to the people outside and vice versa. And we do that for about 25 minutes each. Preceding the circle, or preceding the fishbowl conversations rather, we will be having a potluck, and it will be set up in here. There should be a way for people to go on both sides of the tables. And it's going to be short. Please take your food and take it outside. Their tables and chairs are set up. And that will be happening from about noon, whenever the service is over, to about 12:30, at which point we'll gather back here in the Commons. The second announcement is the Peace and Nature Camp video we tried to show last time, and it did not go well technically, so we're doing it again today. Enjoy.
Trees are my teachers, animals are my friends, and on this school all life depends. I love nature, nature is cool. The forest is my classroom, the earth is my school. Trees are my teachers, animals are my friends, and on this school all life depends. I love all of nature, yes it's true. That means I love myself and I love you too. When I look around me, nature's all that I'm seeing. Plants, animals, earth, sky, and human beings. Nature is like one big community. Many animals might live inside just one tree, and that tree gives us oxygen to help us breathe. This whole interaction is called ecology. I love nature, nature is cool. The forest is my classroom, the earth is my school. Trees are my teachers, animals are my friends, and on this all life. I love flowers, they are so pretty. I love them in the forest and I love them in the city. And I love mushrooms too, on a pizza or in salad. But my favorite place for mushrooms is right here in this love ballad. I love children and I love H2O. And children who love nature can help the rivers flow by protecting habitats like wetlands and wet meadows. When we work together, we can all help nature grow. So I love nature, nature is cool. The forest is my classroom, the earth is my school. Trees are my teachers, animals are my friends, and on this school all life. So let's love nature right now with all our hearts. That's right, this present moment is a great place to start. We don't need any money, it might take a little time. We need to open up our arms, hearts, mouths, and minds, so we can see the gifts Mother Nature can bring. When we learn to appreciate it, it makes us want to sing. And when we are smiling and singing our song, other people hear us and they want to sing along. They sing, I love nature, nature is cool. The forest is my classroom, the earth is my school. Trees are my teachers, animals are my friends, and on this school all life.
Ours is a welcoming community where we find connection, a spiritual community where we find meaning, a sharing community where joys are amplified and our sorrows are lessened. If you would like, you may come forward, state your name, release a stone in the water in silence, or with a share of your special joy or sorrow. May we remember those who have spoken those they have named, and those we hold in silence in our hearts. It was joyful. There was food, thanks to the Green Sanctuary Committee. The funds came from their budget. There were volunteers who prepared that food. There was food donated. There was very late night dancing to Adele's Bad Romance, which is a song I cannot get out of my head. It was so lovely. There were young people spread out everywhere on almost every couch and several surfaces, floor surfaces in our community or in our church. And for me, I'm starting to really appreciate and think deeply about the word hospitality. And that felt so hospitable to open up our lovely building and accommodate to these youth that are spreading information that is so needed and doing good work. They do work with Habitat for Humanity and many other organizations in helping people get into homes they can afford. So please join me in the celebration of that event and also your generosity. And I think we have baskets somewhere, if we could pass those around. Thank you. And I believe there's a link online, or will be soon, where you can donate, if that's easier for you. It would be easier for you if you're remote.
that were made long ago. I have some cracks in me. They have been filled with gold. That's what they used back then when they had a bowl to mend. It did not hide the cracks. It made them shine instead. So now every old scar shows from every time I broke, and anyone's eyes can see I'm not what I used to be. But in a collector's mind, all of these jagged lines make me more beautiful, worth a much higher price. I'm like one of those Japanese bowls. I was made long ago. I have some cracks, you can see how they shine of gold.
Please join me in giving thanks for all that sustains us. For the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance. We bring these gifts, works of love, which none of us can accomplish alone. So there are two poems to read today. The first one is Not Bad, Dad, Not Bad by Jan Heller-Levi. I think you are most yourself when you are swimming, slicing the water with each stroke. The funny way you breathe, your mouth cocked as though you're yawning. You're neither fantastic nor miserable at getting from here to there. You wouldn't win any medals, Dad, but you wouldn't drown. I think how different everything might have been had I judged your loving like I judge your side stroke, your butterfly, your Australian crawl. But I always thought I was drowning in that icy ocean between us. I always thought you were moving too slowly to save me when you were moving as fast as you can. Badly by Lynn Unger. Anything worth doing is worth doing badly. No one ever did something well without doing it poorly first. But if we're going to get real, the chances of your ever getting really good are slim at best. The Olympics and the pro leagues fled with the end of your puberty. Maybe the Nobel or Pulitzer is out there waiting, but I wouldn't hold my breath. Even on our best days, most of us are merely competent, and much of the time, adequate is a stretch. Appearances aside, this might be one of the happiest things I know. I hereby absolve you of the need to be better than anyone else. Poof. It is possible to suck at things with great love. Grab your uke and I'll get my mandolin. Meet me on the porch. We'll play together, under tempo and ever so slightly out of tune. So it is my great pleasure to introduce Susan Moerdyk. Susan's been a member of People's Church for about 12 years. She has many roles. They have included daughter, sister, wife, honor student, athlete, clarinetist, educator, crafter, office manager, learner, customer service rep, filker, which I meant to look up and I forgot, technical support coordinator, dancer, trustee, reader, committee member, contract manager, caretaker, homeowner, and best of all, mom. Part of her COVID time story has been to nurture herself to grow out of anxiety-driven perfectionism as a part of learning to be anti-racist and engage in mental and emotional recovery and healing.
Thank you, Donna. Well, good morning. This is a really great turnout for a Sunday service. Thank you for coming, and I can't see how many people are attending via Zoom, but thank you for being here and investing your time with us this morning. I recently have started engaging in conversation with a therapist. This was a very difficult decision to make, and it's not the first time that I've made it. But when she was talking to me and learning about me, I said, I consider myself a recovering perfectionist and a recovering workaholic. And after hearing some of my story, she said, that sounds like a really good description for you. So COVID found me in a situation where my partner had just moved in with me, and within 6 weeks after moving in, he got a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So, how do we deal with that? So I put on my workaholic mantle and set to work in getting him all the care that he needed, and talking to doctors and working with hospitals. And you can imagine what that was like, and I'm sure some of you have had similar experiences. But it really brought forward to me the anxiety I had about nothing can go wrong for him. It has to be perfect. The stakes are too high. Oh, but that got me thinking about this need. It was anxiety. Nothing could go wrong. I don't wake up every morning saying, I have to be perfect today. I wake up every morning with the terror that I'm going to fail today. Hence the anxiety, hence the need to be perfect. Everything has to turn out just right. I have to see everything that could potentially go wrong and find a way to make sure that it does not go wrong. I'm told I have some high expectations of myself. So between that, starting this thought process and starting to learn about being anti-racist and dealing with the fact that I did grow up with privilege, it got me to thinking, why am I driven this way? What caused me to be this way? What shaped me? And how do I take the experiences that I've had that I'm sure many of you share? How do I take these times when I have been broken like the bull? The times that I've suffered devastating loss and grief, where I've failed, where I have fallen into such deep despair and burnout that the temptation to get lost in alcoholic addiction or stepping off the curb of the sidewalk in front of the semi-truck that was coming down the road seemed like a really valid option. How do I take those apart? How do I unravel that? How do I put it back together so I can learn not just to survive my life, but to thrive in my life? Because I've been really great at surviving. I've been fantastic at bouncing back, picking myself back up and keeping going. And 3 of those reasons that I could keep doing that are named Luke, Joshua, and Renee. And that is part of why being a mom, other than having some really fantastic kids, is so valuable to me. And that's why the poem about Not Bad Dad really speaks to me, because hopefully my kids can see that I was swimming as fast as I could. That's my hope. So what shaped me though? Because to solve a problem, and here's my engineer brain, right? To solve a problem, you have to know what the causal factor is in order to be able to adjust and make a solution. Well, number one, I grew up in the eastern Upper Peninsula of Michigan in a town of less than 3,000 people. My dad was the superintendent of schools, and he was the lay minister at church. My young life was like a bug in a bell jar. I was the kid that could not get away with anything. If I didn't show up for church choir, the choir director would go down, call my mother, and say, Susan didn't show up for choir today. Where is she? Of course, my mother knew I was 2 houses down at my one friend's house. And so I got in trouble because I just didn't want to go to choir that day. Me, the person who loves to sing, did not want to go to choir. If I tried to be like the other kids and be just the littlest bit naughty, I was the one that got caught, because guess who the teachers were watching? Susan, you know better than that. I would have expected more of you. This is where being academically talented was a double-edged sword, because you were praised for it by the teachers and persecuted for it by your peers. I don't know if anyone else in this room can relate to that concept. I was the kid that if there was a job that needed to be done, I was the person they wanted. But if there was a party, I was the one that was not invited. I was isolated. And those times that I wasn't perfect were used to hurt me, or to unconsciously tell me that I was not good enough. I was also the youngest of 6, all of whom are significantly older than me, and they were involved. Each of them were involved in different activities, but for some reason I internalized it that I needed to be able to do everything that my siblings could do, and I needed to be able to do it at least as well, if not better than they did, because I worshiped them. They were my heroes. I needed to be like my heroes. Did anybody on purpose tell me that I was not good enough? Most of the time, no. But I had to be perfect, because those times that I was not perfect were used to harm me. I've lost jobs because this or that little thing was not done. Might not have been the real reason that they didn't want me. I wasn't a good fit for them, but I do my work well, and they needed a reason. So they found the thing, they found the chink in my armor, and they pierced it. And it's happened to me more than once. So why do I need to be perfect? Because not being perfect emotionally mostly hurt me, and it threatened my livelihood, which threatened my ability to take care of my most precious people. And that was not going to happen. So I internalized a lot of messages that may or may not have been intentionally sent, but in my little mind, in my young mind, I had to be better. I always had to be better. I was good enough to be the first chair clarinetist, but I knew I wasn't practicing 15 to 30 minutes every day the way my band director would have liked me to. So now I'm guilty, right? Oh, I must not really be good enough to be the first chair clarinetist because I don't practice 30 to minutes every day, so I must be an imposter. I'm on the basketball team and I'm a starter on the row, but my coach is always unhappy with me. He always tells me that I should be running harder, doing better, jumping more. But I'm also in yearbook, cheerleading, choir, band. I was spread a little thin. So I was good enough, but to still, from all these areas, to still be, well, you could be better. Oh. And the worst thing an adult could say to me, especially my father, who was my biggest advocate, was, honey, I'm disappointed in you. Those words would send me to my room in tears. I didn't need to be timed out. I didn't need to be grounded. None of that. None of those things that we may have done with our kids to get them to go where we want them to go. Honey, I'm so disappointed. That was it. So I put on this armor of perfection. My armor. Well, armor protects you, but it also isolates you. Susan, no one's going to do the job the way that you do it. You can't expect them to do everything the way that you do it. Susan, you're not always really as accepting of how other people might do things. Maybe you need to loosen up a little bit. Oh, well, now I'm not good enough because I'm putting off other people, which breaks my heart because that's not what I want to do. I don't want to put people off. I don't want them to feel like they need to be distanced from me. I don't mean to project. I mean, I've been an educator. Part of my other most important role was to get kids to believe that they could do more than they thought they could do. I loved it. So within myself, I've got this conundrum going on of I want to help people succeed, and I want to help them grow, and I want to help them thrive, and I want to help them learn to do this. But yet apparently the energy and aura that I was putting off contradicted. Because Susan, you just think you're perfect. And I didn't think I was perfect. My little brain in my head is like, oh no, it's like the Facebook reel, right? What you see on Facebook and social media is people highlight reel, and you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. It's been a journey. Because I want to thrive in my life. I want the people around me to thrive in my life. I want to be part of helping them be healthy and thriving. I want to help communities that I care about thrive and be healthy. It means I have to learn a completely new way to define what it means to be successful. It means I got to find a way to take all these experiences that still live in my head and turn them into fertilizer. And it's not been easy, and it's been slow. Fortunately, I have a really good support system now that I've not always had, which also includes my adult children. When I told my youngest today that I was giving a talk or a reflection today on less than perfect, he laughed at me. And he's like, right, Mom. like, I said, I'm not perfect. Do it. So that's my story. And that's my struggle. Because if you've listened to the words and the themes today, it's about wanting to be whole. It's about making the gold shine. It's about giving yourself the permission that when you make a legitimate mistake, to learn to be okay and that you can redirect. It's hard to learn to be okay, but it is okay. And it's also a little bit of a balance, right? You don't want to also fall into the, well, I just don't have to do anything well because I'm less than perfect and now I don't have to take any responsibility for anything because that's my reason, I'm just not perfect. Yeah. Well, where's that line, right? Where do you give yourself permission to have a boundary that it's okay to not be perfect at that thing, but to not just allow yourself to just not have any standards? And I get the chance to apply this every day as my leadership and the people that I work with challenge me to grow and evolve, which I'm very fortunate to have a professional environment that helps with that. Not everybody has that. I have a partner that lets me work through this process. I have a church community that helps work through this process. And I'm grateful for that. And that's been one of the main things, is to really, really, truly find the things that I'm grateful for and to truly and deeply express that. That was the very beginnings of coming out of this. So that was the start. I still got a long way to go. But I appreciate you sharing this time with me today. And I did bring an example of what's helping me work this through, as this is a blanket that my partner's family made. And you can see it's got some holes in it. But his mother worked on this, his sister worked on this, and his grandmother worked on this. And I looked at it thinking about perfection. It's made out of different kinds of yarn. They've shrunk. It's been loved. It's important. So I asked him if he would be willing to let me deconstruct it and reconstruct it. And what I've done, like our song, is those places where it needed a little of support, we've added some new yarn. But for the most part, this is the same yarn that was here. And this is really part of the meditative process that I have right now about reworking and reforming and transforming and building off of what already exists. And I'm very honored that he would trust me to do this for something that he cares about so much. And it's still going to have its little unique characteristics. I couldn't get this part undone, so we just sewed it in the way it was. It's not going to be perfectly rectangular, but it's going to be beautiful. So I've probably gone way over my time. But now I want to turn it to your sharing, and in your order of service, there's a couple of questions that you can use or not use, and I will bring the microphone to you, so if you'll raise your hand, I will bring it to you. So please speak the truth as you understand it. To avoid inhibiting the flow of discussion, do not comment on others' comments until everyone's had a chance to do their initial sharing. The team, Donna and Savannah and Reed, are going to help monitor online, so if you're on Zoom and would like to contribute, I think there's a raise the hand feature that you can click on so that you can make sure that you are participating. And the questions are, one, is there a time that you have found new appreciation, beauty, rejuvenation, or inspiration from a less than perfect experience or interaction? Or the second option was, what are ways you have found to foster a culture where it's okay to be less than perfect? Don't everybody jump up at once.
Hello, my name is Nick, and I used to struggle heavily with perfectionism, and that dominated my life to the part where I wouldn't even get in front of people to talk. Even in a situation like this would be very, very difficult for me, even considering I would be the person just sitting back and try to keep myself from being in front of people. And I went through I was in prison, and I was in a group where it was designed for people with autism, and be able to understand myself and understand what are my weaknesses and strengths. And I found and discovered that I really had a serious problem with anxiety, and also had issues with putting a level of perfection to the point where I would think about every little detail about myself, and I couldn't even get myself past certain things in front of people. I would be shaking like a leaf. I would be in a part where I could not even think or function properly, because I would think, oh, I'm going to fail. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And working through those, people point out those aspects of my life, and working hard about my positive reinforcement by thinking, I don't have to fail. I can do this and I can do that. But it took a lot of work, and I'm still working through it. And I appreciate her example, because she also do with her the blanket right there and showing the holes right there. I could resonate from that, and felt, and also when I do my artwork too, I can see that was crocheted. I like to knit, and I'm also like making certain that everything's perfect. And when it's not bad being perfect on certain things, but at the same time, allowing yourself to be able to be open to think, hey, I can do this, but if I fail, not to make that be a part of my life where it just makes me feel horrible. And I can feel, hey, you know what? Actually, that looks pretty cool. I can also do that, and also other work in arts and that type of stuff, and like just doodling something simple and just enjoying it, and also having a way to express my way in art where I didn't feel like I had to do that in the past. Who's next?
You have an online person?
Okay, so Gay, and then we've got someone online.
Well, I fell right into this conversation. I'm an artist, but my mom was a fabulous artist. And when she was dying, I painted a turtle for her. She's in hospice, and I'm showing her this painting. She loved turtles, and she's pointing out how the shadows could have been brighter. And she's dying, you know. And I took that, meaning that it wasn't good enough, and because she was so good. She never said it was not good enough. She was the educator trying to teach me, but that's the way I took it. So, you know, years later, here I am painting, and my inner critic gets into the scene frequently saying, oh, that doesn't look right. And yet what's amazing is when I've been in several places to sell my work, people sometimes like the ones that I thought were failures or were not good enough, and those are the ones that are purchased. So it's taught me something about my own inner critic, and good enough is good enough.
So there's a hand raised by Ken Van Esseltine.
There, finally got unmuted. Yeah, I had a situation recently on Facebook where a friend of mine had posted something to the wrong group. And he got a bunch of comments about, oh, that's not on topic, you know, go away, you know. And my answer was, well, thinking that people aren't perfect, it's okay to be imperfect. That's why there are erasers on pencils. You are able to make a mistake and work on being better. And they also give us whiteout so we can make corrections to our in-ink problems on our postcards. So those are my thoughts. And he took it very, very well. and appreciated hearing a story that said, you don't have to be perfect. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Everyone. I teach at a university in Grand Rapids, and I teach health professionals, and I'm not a clinician myself. So I've always had a good bit of imposter syndrome when that comes. So with the pandemic, this actually addresses both of your questions. I had to teach online. So I was very, I guess I did have some perfectionism. I wanted my videos and my videos and the content and everything to look beautiful and to be perfect and to keep my students' attention and to be informational and so many things. But I was also doing this from my bedroom, which was also my 7-year-old's, classroom, which was also my laundry pile, my bed, like everything. So there was a lot going on that got in the way. And in addition to doing the recordings, I also was teaching synchronously live via Zoom in a house with multiple animals and people. So there was a lot of work, like really hard work and emotional work that was happening in my head to make this get pulled off seamlessly and as I wanted it to be. And I thought I had done all the things to make things perfect. And I have a cat. My husband has cats. I don't particularly care for cats. So one of our cats, I was in the middle of a live Zoom lecture, and never before would this have I would never have thought this would happen with this particular cat. I'm at my desk, the Zoom camera's on, everything is very serious. And I kid you not, it was like someone dropped the cat from the ceiling. I'm still not quite sure how this happened, because I'm looking at the camera, I'm talking, and then plop, this cat is on the keyboard, and the cat knows I don't like the cat. So we both had this look of horror. And he, freezes, and then all hell breaks loose. And my webcam goes flying, the keyboard goes crazy, my computer does something because of the stuff happening on the keyboard. And I think that just opened Pandora's box, because I was mad, I was angry, all these emotions, and I wanted to kill the cat. And then my dogs jump off the bed and they're chasing the cat. And then my 3-year-old is, Mommy, what's happening? And he can't get into the bedroom, because the door's locked. And so there was this moment of absolute pure horror, but then surrender of yeah, welcome to my life. And all my students are watching this unfold. And then I realized, oh yeah, there's that pause button. Where's that at? Where's the mute button? But after what felt like a very long time, one of my students that knows me well started laughing. And she said, Dr. Wallace, we all knew your life was like that anyway. And I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but that single momentary event took my professional life with my students light years ahead, because we trust each other. They're not afraid to screw up. And now my recordings, I don't re-record. You hear my kids in the background. You hear the cats, you hear the dogs, you hear the cows. I walk into class with, dog poop on my shoe and nobody cares. So it was just a huge opportunity to say yeah, we're all real people and we all screw up, and sometimes it's better that way. So thanks for letting me share my story. Thank you.
Catherine Niesink shares, my mother was deep in dementia, and we had a quilt she had started before. It was on a quilt frame, and we all worked on it. There are loopy stitches that my mother made. My niece took the quilt when my mother died, and we talked about it. My niece said, those are Grandma's stitches, they have to stay. She was a master seamstress, but we cherish those stitches.
I'm Lori. A few years ago, during my daughter's wedding, the minister described her as having her father's winning smile and her mother's competence. And I thought, competence, okay. But it fit. I was competent and had worked hard all my life to be competent. And I was okay with that. About a year ago, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And I now have physical limitations and energy limitations and sometimes mental limitations. And I have had to learn to live with that and to prioritize and ask for help. And if I could wave my magic wand and make it go away, I certainly would. But I think that I'm becoming a kinder, gentler me to myself, and maybe there's something good in that.
Hey, we're coming up on time, but if you've got a last share, let's get that in.
10 years ago, I woke up one morning and I just didn't feel right. So I ended up in the emergency room in Pawpaw, and eventually they sent me down over to Bronson, and they said, "You've had a stroke. You're having a stroke." Well, I felt fine, and I'm thinking, what's a stroke? And it turns out, for a while, I couldn't eat. I couldn't take solid food. I couldn't swallow. So I had a feeding tube. Still went out for dinner with people, and would have ice cubes, and then eventually I could have juice of some kind. And then I finally got back onto solid food. And yet, I'm not 100%. I never got back all my feeling. My left side, I'm a little numb on, and I look at it. I can't donate blood anymore. I used to work for the Red Cross and donate blood. But when I go to have a lab test done, use this arm. I don't feel it. And so many of my other people I know that have had strokes, are a lot worse off than I am. Okay, I'm 90% of what I was before. I'm 90% of what I was. It's better than being 80%.
Thank you. I think we've got one last comment from online. No. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Hopefully, we're all going to be a little more comfortable being a little less than perfect, because it's okay.
Please rise and body your spirit for the singing of our closing song.
My life flows on in endless song above us lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round How can I keep from singing to prison cell and dungeon vile? Our thoughts to them are winging when friends by shame are undefiled. How can I keep from singing? My life flows on in endless song above us lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
So I have an imperfect memory. If any of you want to share my earworm, the song that the youth were dancing to was not by Adele, but by Lady Gaga. We came together today to be in community, all of us non-perfect humans. And now we're going to be together in community to share a meal, which will be set up momentarily. Go in peace.